How's it going, everybody? Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 204. Happy to be back from Knoxville after being there for 10 days and back in the swing of things here at the shop, and going to film some of these for you. We'll cover a couple questions that have came in since we last filmed. We filmed kind of a batch of 3 or 4 of these before I left for Knoxville, and those were all kind of pertaining to tires. So if you have any questions with those, I've gotten a couple on people wanting some more in-depth stuff on tire grooving, and so we may do a follow-up part 2 on the tire grooving one. But yeah, keep those questions coming. Please ring the bell for notifications so you are notified whenever we're doing these, which is every Monday at 9 o'clock. And other videos, we post other videos and other tech, behind the scenes type content on the regular. So a couple of the questions. So one came in about cars bouncing at Eldora, referring to King's Royal Week. Unfortunately, we had a few big incidences there, and thankfully all the drivers are going to make a full recovery. But the question came pertaining to, is it something different with the race cars, or is the track that rough? The track's that rough, right? It maybe was that rough, a long time ago, but we're going so much faster now. It's more pronounced for sure. They got rain off and on, which didn't help. And just for the last few years, they've had that kind of washboardy ruts getting into turn 1, which typically you can go above them or below them, but they seem to be a little bit wider. And the question he had was, if it's the track, how do we adjust for that? Really, it kind of goes back to something I've touched on multiple times through Monday Morning Quarterback segments, and that's sometimes you got to decide whether you want to tune the car for that 5% of the track and potentially sacrifice speed on the other 95% of the track, or do you just want to deal with that abnormality in the track right there? And a lot of times that's going to come down to if it's got the driver uncomfortable, to the point that they're spooked, we would have to tune for it, or it's not avoidable. Like it was kind of not avoidable there. It was so rough on certain nights. But there's a couple things you can do. The softer the car is, the better it's going to get through bumps. It's not as harsh. Stiffening up high-speed compression can help in that scenario. Certainly there's a limit, but a little bit more air pressure in the right rear can help. If you get too much, it'll bounce worse. So there's a fine line on a lot of that stuff, but great question. I'm sure Levi and the folks at Eldora are working hard to try to smooth that out, because it has been a little bit of a challenge the last few years there. The next question was, are there any books that I recommend for setups? So there's some good engineering type books that go over vehicle dynamics and such, but if you don't have an engineering background, a lot of those might be over your head. The only book is an old book that was, I think, produced in the late 80s, early 90s. Steve Smith did it, and they're still out there. You can find them on eBay. He did a book for micros and a book for sprint cars. Some of the pictures are going to be old and dated, but I actually thumbed through one of those last summer. Somebody had one in their trailer, and I was thumbing through it. And there's a lot of good, valid points, and the principles are still the same. These books are extremely expensive on eBay because they are still relevant, and they're very hard to find because I don't think they've printed them in over 20 years. But those Steve Smith books would be books that I would recommend for somebody getting into dirt track racing, micros, midget, sprint cars. They cover kind of soup to nuts, the whole thing. So really good. Without further ado, tonight's topic, I'm opening my phone to get to my notes. We're going to cover 5 setup trends / trick parts and what the buzzwords were at Knoxville, because I just got back from there. And you spend 10 days there. For me, working with customers, going through the pits, and we have a lot of customers that aren't necessarily CSI shock customers, but maybe we do their steering gears, or we sell them jacks, and just friends with a lot of the people in the pits, whether they use our shocks or not. That's our primary business, but certainly get along and talk with a bunch of different crew chiefs, whether they're currently on our product or not. And so yes, we're going to cover those 5 things. So the first one, which if I had to guess, I think you're going to see it go away, is the qualifying wings. I think Knoxville, Outlaws High Limit are probably going to say you have to race the wing you qualify unless it's damaged. But what are these qualifying wings? I get questions from people that aren't necessarily in the know, or don't go to these national high-level sprint car races. And there's a few things that are different about it. And there's several different manufacturers doing them, and each of them is probably doing something slightly different. But what's obviously different is the shape of the nose. It's definitely more of a pointed nose, going to be less drag. Sometimes the thickness of the belly is thinner on these qualifying wings. Sideboard placement, I've seen sideboard placement different. And then the one that Silva and Larson kind of brought out way back at Volusia was no internal runners, and then they're laying their wing slider flat. Some guys are taking the wing slider totally off, and they're really just trying to clean the air up underneath the wing, so no disturbance. That belly's totally smooth, and then the wing posts just go up into holes. So with that style, they actually can't move the wing forward or back at all. But it's, again, to clean the air up, so every little piece. Which would bring me to my second piece, and Dirt Tracker Daily talked about this last week. If you didn't watch that show, I would definitely go watch it. He does a great job with his dailies, but a little aero device that's been seen on a few different cars. That was a lot of the talk. I'm more of a mechanical guy than an aero guy. It's just hard to work on something you can't see, but as a lot of the old timers will tell you, air is free, and there's a lot of grip to be had with air. So certainly there are people that are aware of these different little aero bits, and again, the qualifying wing, a lot of it has to do with air. When are we going to talk about some shock things? Those are the last 2 things on my list, the shock trends and things going around. So number 3 is tire balancers. So there's a Rip Williams' son, Cody. He makes some wheel balancers that go on the axles. So you see a lot of teams using that. Kaiser has their new balancer that goes in the wheel. And it seems that a lot of the teams are using these. The guys that are serious, they're taking them off to qualify. And I think it's just getting rid of rotating weight. They do have their tires balanced already, and those devices seem to help once you get mud in your wheel to keep the tire balanced. So if your wheels are perfectly clean, which qualifying typically, unless you're up over the cushion, you're not going to be fast at that point anyway, you're not getting mud in your wheels, and so they're taking those things off just to get rid of as much rotating weight as they can. So that was something unique. I've seen guys sliding those off as they were going through the different things to get ready to qualify. Knoxville qualifying is so important. It's such a big part of your entire week. You get as many points for quick time as you do for winning the prelim feature, so guys are pulling out all the stops, anything they can to get every last bit of horsepower out, make the car as aero friendly as possible, and go as fast as possible. I remember way back in the 90s, before there was a weight rule, I think it was Sammy qualified without a radiator one year at Knoxville, just to get rid of the radiator and get rid of the water and let the engine be air cooled for 2 laps. And then that spawned some rule changes that you have to race the car how you qualify it. But so then the 4th thing is, the 4th and 5 are going to be shock things, since we're a shock company. Left front shock travel. So it seems that guys are wanting to give their left fronts more room to travel, and I think this stems from tires being the way they are. For a few years, people have been controlling the attitude of their car with how much gap they give the left front, how much they're letting that left front travel. And now it seems that some teams have identified that you need to let it travel farther, and then they're very mindful of then how much up travel is available as well. So guys tuning with different length rod ends and different pickup places on their axle. But that's a trend I saw going on throughout the pit area. And the last thing is the internal bump springs and internal travel limiters. You know, this has been going on for a few years. I get asked at least once a week from a customer, like, what do you think? Should we do it? Should we not do it? And there's a lot there, and that's probably going to be a whole nother singular Monday morning quarterback topic there. I think there certainly is some guys that are going fast with them, and then some guys that have them in and they may think they're helping or think they're hurting, but in all reality their car's never even getting to it. So there's a lot that goes in there, and really knowing what your car travels in both directions, and having a good idea of what rate that spring needs to be, how much you want to travel it. So there's a lot going on there, but guys, you know, you don't know what percentage because obviously it's inside the shock and you can't see, but there's certainly been some of that going around for a while. We first tried it over 2.5 years ago, had some success, didn't have success, so it's kind of went all around. But it's just another way for certain crew chiefs to manipulate the attitude of their car and the balance of their car. So that'll be a future. We'll do a whole Monday morning quarterback on that and kind of teach you all the things we've learned over the last few years with telemetry and different things, and maybe a way that it potentially could help your car. So if you're a non-wing guy, I apologize. Tonight was a wing thing. We just got back from the Nationals, but we are going to have much more of these. They're coming every Monday. Again, please share them. That helps us out a bunch, and ring the bell for notifications. We hope you all have a great week, and we will be back next Monday at 9 o'clock.